Welcome back to another edition of the Draft Dynasty Podcast here on the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Jeremy Betts. I'm flying solo tonight as I record this for Friday morning, and wherever you get this on audio, you can listen to it whenever, obviously. But just had a kind of a crazy week here and totally forgot to invite somebody on for this episode. So I'm flying solo, and that's okay. I've got plenty to talk about here. We're going to dive into three must-draft Dynasty rookies at each position. We're going to talk quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. And I think that this is going to be hopefully a very informative show. I'm going at this with like zero rules, okay? So a lot of times in something like this, you'll talk about the players that maybe are further down the list that aren't surefire first round selections in your dynasty draft. Or maybe you'll take a look at players that have the most upside in certain situations. I'm not setting myself any guidelines here other than these are the three players at each position that I will be targeting if I can help it in my drafts. And a lot of this obviously is based on what I need, depending on the dynasty draft. I've got a couple different dynasties right now that I'm in, and each one, the team's strengths and weaknesses are a little different. There's a couple leagues here where I'm feeling really good at running back for a while. Okay, I've got young guys in place, so maybe I'm going to push for wide receiver there, or maybe I need that dynamic tight end. There's a couple guys to be had in this draft, so I think that it's very important to weigh your choices, balance those out against the value and what your team needs are. In Dynasty, team needs do drive value sometimes, more so than like the actual NFL draft, right? Where best player available, especially in the first round, is probably the better way to go. In this case, I would say for Dynasty leagues that grabbing players that are going to help you now and in the long term based on what you have on your roster already. We don't have contracts in Dynasty, right? So you can keep these guys as long as you want to, and you don't have to upgrade contracts on things. As long as the guy's playing good football, then the value's there. And so when I'm looking at, do I want a running back high or do I want a wide receiver high? What are the positions that you're drafting earlier? Is it going to be the running backs this year? I would say yes. Ashton Genty, Omarion Hampton, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson in Pittsburgh. Those guys are going to go quick, right? And then you've got some wide receivers in here. You've got Ted McMillan. You've got Travis Hunter. You've got Tyler Warren, Colson Loveland at tight end. But there's just a lot of guys here that when you're drafting earlier times slots, you're going to be looking at those running backs. So maybe you want a little bit later in the first round draft pick so you can grab one of these wide receivers that is going to fall down the board because the running backs are going to go quicker. Got to play your strategy out, got to figure it out. But for now, while you're planning all that, here's where I would like to give you just some names to watch, okay? Some guys who are in great situations, some guys that have long-term viability and value, and some guys that can provide you immediate success and help you this year to round out your rosters, okay? So let's dive into this, and let's start out with the quarterback position. This is an interesting quarterback year for Dynasty. You had the one first-round pick that everybody feels pretty good about for long-term starter ability, Cam Ward to Tennessee with the first overall pick. Then you had the Giants trading up for Jackson Dart in the back half of the first round. You have Tyler Shuck going at the early portion of the second. And then it kind of was like, okay, where are these other guys going to go? Jalen Milroe is a long-term play, right? But third round pick, Seattle takes him. They've got Sam Darnold there now. So he's probably not going to start this year. Probably not going to start next year. But is he grooming into a long-term starter position? Those are kind of the things I want to discuss here. So let's start. If you're drafting a quarterback and you need a quarterback in 2025, then the guy to go after is Cam Ward. He just is. He is a must-draft player if you need immediate success. So Cam Ward, let's project him out a little bit. I think that when you're looking at what his potential is for putting up numbers in 2025, I think you're looking at a QB2 type player. I think the athleticism gives him a little bit of upside to be able to extend plays, maybe get out and run a little bit, but he's not going to be a running quarterback. Think Justin Herbert, maybe, or Joe Burrow, just enough to get them out of trouble and to maybe scramble for a first down or two here and there. But when I look at Cam Ward and his upside for this year, it's all about that this team is going to throw the ball a lot. They're going to utilize him in the screen game. They're going to utilize him downfield throws. That wide receiver room is a little bit better than it was last year. You're talking about some guys who can either continue to grow at wide receiver, or you've got guys like Calvin Ridley, where maybe they've settled in a little bit now that they've been back for a couple years in the NFL after his suspension and time away from the league. So either way, Cam Ward is going to be entrusted with a large workload right off the bat. So I'm tempering my expectations from an efficiency and overall skill level perspective for year one, but I'm taking that with the opportunity that he is the clear-cut starting quarterback from this draft class that you want on your roster. And I think that Titans team has a chance to improve this year with him and moving forward. I think he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL, and maybe even a really good quarterback in the NFL. We shall see. If you have a need at quarterback and you're feeling good elsewhere and you want to go after him at the back end of the first round, or if you want to take him in your second or third round of your dynasty draft, then by all means, lock him in as your quarterback. Right now, according to Fantasy Pros, he is the 14th ranked overall prospect in dynasty rankings right now. Okay. Another guy that I'd like to have on my roster for future upside, for present success, potentially as well, is Tyler Shuck. This is a guy that we talked about the whole process. He's a little bit older. He's a little bit more NFL ready because he's had more playing experience, or at least he's had more time as a player in college to have developed some of his skill sets. And now you drop him into a Saints team that doesn't have Derek Carr anymore. The next best player on their team is a second-year passer now, whose name is escaping me. Forgive me for that. But you land in a spot where you have a direct path to the starting lineup if you're Tyler Shuck. So again, you're tempering expectations for year one, but you believe that this is a guy who could earn starter snaps pretty quickly and who might be a long-term starter for a team that needs a quarterback. So he's the other guy I would go get for sure here. And then finally, I think let's talk about Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers going to Miami. The Dolphins are in the very unique situation where they're paying a guy a lot of money who maybe isn't very good, actually, who maybe is so scheme dependent that when things break down around him, when injuries happen, you cannot rely on him to be the player that you're paying him to be. Tua Tagovailoa is, I didn't think it was a good idea to pay him when they did. I still don't think it was a great idea. And I think that you got a guy in Quinn Ewers who has some upside, who a lot of people had projected as a first round pick before the last couple years where things kind of died down for him. And he played well at Texas this last year, but I just don't know that the hype followed him enough here. And so he ends up going in the 6th round. He's a very, very late draft pick. So the expectations are really low. But for a guy who could jump into an offense where you really like the design of it, the expectations that offense is going to have with the players that they have on the team, and then the opportunity is probably there for him to make a couple starts even as early as this year, and maybe be something that they're going to check out long term as well. So yeah, you could go Shedeur Sanders here. Yeah, you could go, Jalen Milroe down the road. And I think that that's a great play too, because of the rushing upside. So I'm not saying that that's not a good idea, but these are the 3 guys I wanted to mention as maybe having a more direct path to starter snaps in 2025 and maybe even beyond. But if you're talking about sheer upside here, the other player you have to mention is Jalen Milroe. So keep that in mind too. If you're good at quarterback, but you want to take an upside play for the future, go get Jalen Milroe. If you need something more or less right away, then those are the three guys that I would recommend, along with maybe Shedeur Sanders. I just like Ewers better personally than Sanders, but in the situation, I think Miami is a better situation for the quarterback than Cleveland is. So give me Quinn Ewers over Shedeur Sanders in that conversation. Let's move on to the running backs, okay? So obviously you have to throw Ashton Jeanty in here as a must draft. If you've got the first overall pick, draft Ashton Jeanty. Don't even think twice about it. But I want to talk about some guys further down the list here. I want to talk about Quinshon Judkins going to Cleveland. Now, this is a place where I really believe in their ability right now under their current coaching staff with an offensive line that may be reaching its expiration date, but it's not quite there yet. It's still going to be good. And I still believe in the schematics that Stefanski can put together to make this a dynamic running game. And Judkins is that type of player. He's the type of player who could really benefit from a run game design like Kevin Stefanski has put in place in Cleveland. He could have Nick Chubb type impact because of the speed, the explosiveness, the athleticism, and the power that he plays with. He's a little more erratic and not as great a vision as I think Nick Chubb had. So he's going to need those holes to open up for him. But if they do, he's going to take advantage. He's going to get all the yards he can. So I really like Judkins where he landed. I think he's a great future play. I think he's a great dynasty play. I'd take him pretty early. RJ Harvey. This is the guy who is not was not projected in the draft to be one of the best running backs in the class necessarily. There were a lot of guys ahead of him. I had a lot of guys ahead of him. But he lands in a situation with Sean Payton in Denver for a team that's going to want to run the ball a lot and doesn't have anybody else at that position. He lands in a spot where he's going to get a lot of work right away. He's going to be their starting running back in 2025. He just is. That's what they drafted him to be in the second round. Earlier than I would have taken him. But combine him with that situation, put him in that role, ask him to catch the ball out of the backfield, to be physical, shifty, be an Alvin Kamara type back. I think that's the best role for him. He landed in the perfect spot. And I think that he's a guy that you're going to want to have on your dynasty team as well. Not just for this year. He's got a lot of future upside as well in a Sean Payton offense where we saw Alvin Kamara put together top 5 season after top 5 season for several years. I've got to talk about my boy Caleb Johnson in Pittsburgh. I just think that the fit is perfect. I think that the type of player he is, the type of organization he went to, it's a match made in heaven stylistically and schematically as well under Arthur Smith. Let's make sure that we put that out there. So if something changes at offensive coordinator there, yeah, that superb fit could change a little bit. But I think that this is a guy who's going to earn workhorse level snaps pretty quickly. Maybe not first half of the year, but by the second half of this year, I think that he's going to be the lead back in this backfield. Jaylen Warren is a good back, but he has some limitations. He's not going to be able to carry the ball at a workhorse level. He's not the body type for that. I think that he's going to be an important player for this team. I think that he's going to handle a lot of touches early this season, but the Steelers did not re-sign him past this year. Caleb Johnson fell in their laps. They ran that card to the table. He is the guy for their future. So for dynasty plays, that plays right into our hands. We're going to have him for a long time. Stash him on the taxi squad this year or don't. Maybe he's a flex player pretty quickly. Maybe he's more than that by the end of the season. Those are the three guys that I'm looking at here. Quinshon Judkins, RJ Harvey, and Caleb Johnson. Jeanty, obviously. Omari Hampton's a good player. Travion Henderson's a good player. We know about those guys. I wanted to talk about a couple guys here that the opportunities there, they weren't maybe as big a names as some of these other guys. They weren't drafted in workhorse type situations where it's them or bust. So there's a little bit less pressure on them. But I think that these three guys are the ones to go after, and they're must-haves, in my opinion, if you are not drafting first overall in Dynasty. I would take all three of these guys in the first round of my Dynasty draft this year. Okay, let's go ahead and take a break. And then when we come back, we will talk wide receivers and tight ends, and we will wrap this show up. Let's jump into the wide receiver position group here on the Draft Dynasty Podcast, where we're talking must draft Dynasty rookies at each position. It's Jeremy Betts here with you still, and let's jump into these wide receivers. Three wide receivers that I really like in 2025. Obviously, if you're picking early and you need wide receiver help, Ted McMillan's going to be in a great position. Travis Hunter's going to be in a great position to be successful right away. Matthew Golden's probably walking into wide receiver 1 territory in Green Bay. That's the type of player that they're drafting him to be. The other guy that was taken in the first round that I can't get enough of as a player, and I think that his opportunities down the road, maybe not this year, but in 2026, 2027, you're going to really start to see his role just blow up. It's Emeka Egbuka. It's another Ohio State guy, another one of my Buckeyes. Love this player. This is the most surefire thing at wide receiver we've had in a long time. He's not got the upside of Ted McMillan, Travis Hunter in this class. And he hasn't got the upside of some of the other upper echelon receivers that we've seen go in recent drafts. Last year, Brian Thomas Jr., he doesn't have that ceiling for Brian Thomas Jr. But what he has is the highest floor of any wide receiver I've ever seen coming out of college. Highest floor of any wide receiver I've ever seen, except for maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. last year. So I just think you can't miss with this guy. And when Mike Evans decides to hang it up, I think that he's going to pair so nicely with Chris Godwin for the next few years. And I just love the future upside for him. I love the surefire good player that he is. I would be shocked if he didn't turn into a very productive wide receiver very, very quickly once given the opportunity. That opportunity could come sooner rather than later with the injury history of both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So don't sleep on him for 2025 as having some kind of impact, but for future play, he's almost can't miss, in my opinion, based on the team he went to, his floor, and what he brings to the table as a player. This is tough. The wide receiver position is tough, but I'm looking at a guy a little bit further down the list. I'm looking at Torrey Horton. Okay. You're probably thinking, okay, what are we talking about here? Torrey Horton. This guy is, let's see, let me try to find his overall ADP here. Tyler Horton is going, he's wide receiver 14 according to Fantasy Pros consensus. He is the 37th ranked rookie. So this is a 3rd round or 4th round pick in your dynasty draft. Torrey Horton, though, to me, lands in a situation where he's gonna be pushing for wide receiver 2 type snaps pretty quickly. Seattle's got Jackson Smith and Jigba, and after that, it's like, okay, who's gonna step up? Who's going to be the guy? Who's going to step up here and earn a role? Torrey Horton is different than JSN. Very different. He's a field stretcher. He's a vertical threat. He's a good route runner. He's long. He's very coordinated, good body control. But he plays a different style. He's gonna stretch you vertically. He's gonna provide you some take the top off the defense ability with his speed, and the ability to work back on like comebacks and posts and things like that, dig routes. I think that he's going to be a good player. So opportunity is there, and he's got some upside. I think that he would be an easy third round selection for me based on some of the other guys going in this range. So that's a guy I'm going for here. And then the final wide receiver that I'd like to just mention here. It's got to be Luther Burden. It's got to be Luther Burden going to Chicago. I know that that's a pretty stacked wide receiver room, as in opportunity might not present itself very soon, but this is the guy that I think could be the Bears version of Amon-Ra St. Brown. The speed, the run after catch ability, the thick build, kind of the ability to just sit in the hole, take the ball on underneath stuff and work defenses. I think it's there. The run after catch stuff is not gimmicky. It's really good. You can use him in all sorts of different methods. And if I trust anybody in this league to be able to scheme up that type of player, it's Ben Johnson. So, and he's there for the long haul. He's there for the next 5 years at least. So Luther Burden III in Chicago. I really, really like him there. I could go on and on about these wide receivers. All right. I could talk about Trey Harris in Los Angeles for the Chargers and what he'll bring to the table. I like Jack Besh in Las Vegas. I love Kyle Williams in New England. There's a lot of good opportunity there. So it's hard to pick three guys. That's why I was kind of debating there on whether I wanted to end up going with Luther Burden or not. But yeah, so just take that into consideration. You can go a lot of different directions with the wide receivers, but these are the must-haves, in my opinion, that I'm going to be drafting at wide receiver. And then finally, let's get to the tight end group. This group is really top-heavy, in my opinion. There's a few guys down the list that I like. But if I'm looking at who I'm drafting at tight end, I'm elevating these guys in the first round over the wide receivers. I want Tyler Warren over everybody but Ted McMillan, probably. I think I want Colson Loveland over anybody but Ted McMillan in the first round, honestly, at receiver. So those two guys have to be in the conversation because those are the two guys that step into the biggest roles and our day one starters and our day one fantasy assets. So, and at a position as well that's not very deep and that it's hard to produce high end results, point totals on a yearly basis, on a weekly basis. Tyler Warren is just so unique of a player, and he lands in Indianapolis, where I think that he's going to get basically all of their underneath stuff. Him and Josh Downs are going to get most of the underneath stuff, while Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman, they're working down the field a little bit more. But Tyler Warren makes things easy for a quarterback. He's going to get fed the ball a lot, no matter who's starting there, because he's an easy button. You say easy button, Tyler Warren, check down, or Tyler Warren in the seam, or Tyler Warren on the corner, or heck, let's just hand it off to him. Let him get 2 yards for us. Let him be our tush push guy, right? So Tyler Warren, I love what he's going to be. I love the player. I love the upside. I love the fit and situation there in Indianapolis. I think he's going to be used well. Colson Loveland, another guy going to a Ben Johnson offense that knows how to use tight ends. I love his fit there. I think that he has all the talent of the guys that Ben Johnson had in Detroit, of Sam Laporta. And I think he's got that and more. He's a better field stretcher. He's probably not. He's probably a better blocker at this point too, which means he'll be on the field all the time. And Ben Johnson loves to run those 12 personnel groupings, so him and Cole Kmet are going to be dynamic together. So I love both of those guys. I cannot say that I would want anybody else in this draft class over those two guys. So I'm going there, and then I'm going with Tyler Ferguson going to the Rams. Terrence Ferguson. I love Terrence Ferguson. I think that his athleticism is some of the best I've ever seen at tight end. The fluidity is really good. Very smooth player. And he's got a big body, and he fits that Sean McVay system. He gives them an underneath guy and a middle of the field guy that can help take some of the pressure off of Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams on the outside. Those guys are going to carry the bulk of the coverages, right? They're going to take a lot of those coverages. So Terrence Ferguson is going to have a wealth of space to work in underneath and over the middle of the field. And I love the fit. And Sean McVay has been trying to get a tight end in the draft for 3 years now. He finally gets a guy that he feels good about. Rumor had it that they would have taken him in the first round if they had stuck where they were at and picked. As it stands, I think that he is a really good player coming into the league. Excuse me. And in that system under McVay, he has a chance to really blossom and shine down the road as well. So those three guys, it's pretty cut and dry at tight end. It really is. Some other names I'll just throw at you. I like Thomas Fudoni going to the Giants. That's a crowded room though, so I don't know how that ends up fitting in. I like Gunnar Helm going to Tennessee. I love Harold Fannin Jr. going to Cleveland. Let's see, where'd he go? Okay. So Omari Gadsden to the Chargers. Just some really good fits, right? Some really good fits. I don't know if they're going to produce fantasy-wise right away, but those are guys that I'm looking at as potential helpful pieces. Guys that if you're just throwing a late-round flyer out there in your dynasty drafts, you could do worse than add one of these guys in a tight end world where development is key, and you might not see the best players at the position until a few years down the road. And they can come from anywhere. They can come from any round. They can come from any background and be successful in the NFL if they develop correctly and are utilized correctly. So that's all I've got. I've got 4 positions here that we break down in full: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end for your dynasty drafts. And I just think that there's in a down year for top end pass catching talent, I think that there's some guys that you can still go after and get. And then this running back class, there's 10 running backs that I'd love to have on my fantasy roster for dynasty. At least 10. And if you're going to miss out on Ashton Genty in the first round, don't fret. There's some guys who can help your fantasy team all throughout the first round, all throughout the second round of your drafts. Go get them early. And see what else you can get down the road. And if you're not getting one of those guys, go get Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland. Go get one of those 2 guys, lock them in, and then figure out wide receiver down the road. That's my draft strategy advice for you for Dynasty. Those are the guys that I'm looking at, the 3 players at each position that I view as must draft guys. And they're not the only ones either, but I just wanted to keep it to 3 for now. And I'll have some of my rankings coming out on ffsn.com down the road for Dynasty as well as Redraft League. So stay tuned for all that. Follow me on Twitter at thebets93, THEBETZ93. Until next time, keep drafting, everybody.